Hello, Scott Marcus coming back with my thought of the week. And it's kind of funny to do one on the goal setting, keeping track of your to-do list, that kind of a thing. This is something that I did want to talk about, but I wasn't sure if it would be all that interesting for people. And then after I posted the first one of these videos, I had multiple people actually reach out with this exact comment in mind. Mary, you requested doing a video on holding yourself accountable when you don't have a deadline, which is a great point because, we still have to get things done. That deadline is you got to do it by now. But also, if you don't have a deadline, you still want to get things done. Also, sometimes, like I'm in the middle of right now, you have a huge project. So your deadline is really far away, but there's still benchmarks you should be hitting. That distant deadline is not helpful. So you should create some deadlines for yourself in the foreground. Ayla also says that she's been making a lot of effort to write down the big goals and then also the weekly obtainable goals, attempting to take those smaller bites, which is completely what I'll be talking about today. She's never been good at doing it, but it's been much easier lately, and she's been auditioning 3 times a week for almost a month now. So congrats, Ayla. We look forward to seeing you in all sorts of TVs, on all sorts of TVs and other TV shows, movies, etc. going forward. To start, let's look at Mary's comment where she talks about holding yourself accountable, which almost sounds like a looming punishment. If I don't do it, I get my slap on the wrist. I go another route with that. Not to say that that's how Mary intended it, but that, to me, that's what the image that comes into my mind. I go the other way with it, which is to have rewards. And, Ayla and Mary were both really hitting a lot of what I want to talk about today because it's attainable. First and foremost, these goals need to be attainable. And what I do is I do them every single day. Sometimes I'll write them down the day before. If not, it's the first thing I do when I get up and I, get to work, whether that's working for the company I work for or working on my own projects. Also, I have to say that creating these written out lists is so important for me personally, because I don't know if you're like me, but I can get it in my head that I have so many tasks to do. I've got so much on my to-do list, and it's just this big swamp of information swirling around my brain. So rather than get started on it, what I do is nothing, because it's overwhelming and I feel paralyzed by by the weight of this to-do list. So simply writing it out lets me organize it, and often I find that it's not nearly as much as it feels like. When you have it written out, it looks like, oh well, now I've got a plan, it's attainable. But when you just feel it and it's all in your head, it for me at least, it gets overwhelming and paralyzing, and then that's as unproductive as can be. Rather than do anything, you do nothing. And that is 5 things. These are the 5 things that I will do today. And then you have a chance to kind of, get your thoughts together and then put them in order, because sometimes that matters, that I should do this before I do this. You prioritize them. The important thing is to break those down, because I'm a video editor. So sometimes that includes shooting, editing, posting, SEO, make the thumbnail, all that kind of stuff. And depending on the size of the video, the how intense that project is, maybe that's just 1 or 2 things. It's like create it and then post it, or maybe that is going to be the entire day. So you might have to break down those tasks, and that is still going to fill up your day. Also, as we know, things come up. Things come up that reprioritize. So that's when you start to fill in your tomorrow plan in the moment as well. Somewhat embarrassingly, going to show what I do, how it looks. And yes, I do have horrendous handwriting, but I can read it, and that's all that matters, because this is just for me. Here's an example, just a random day here. We do live events with my company, with the company I work for. So create a new countdown video. That's the little countdown that goes before we go live. New SEO and build a short out of our most recent video. So that was number 2. There's 2 things in that number 2, but you can kind of do both of those at once. Edit another previous video. I do so much editing. I used to do so much editing. Send instructions to so-and-so. So this was an email to send, and then do an analytics report on our last live stream. So that was 5 things that filled up my day. What I'll do over here, this is, day after day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over and over again. Nowadays, I'll put the date off to the side as well. So this is my daily, what I'm doing. And then on this side, my monthly goals. So this is up here. Actually, I was starting to break it down into early and mid month goals. So this was for mid to late June. And these are personal projects. These are the things I'm not able to dedicate as much time to, because I've got all of this over here. but they are there as a constant reminder that if I have a moment to carve out what's the next thing on this list. So once I've got my 1 through 5, my goals for the day, and something might add on, other things will come up that you have to address that don't go on the list. You just do it in the moment because it's an urgent email or phone call or whatever. Once I make it through and I've X off all 5 things, then it's a reward. For me, as many of you know, I'm a giant, big old nerd. So oftentimes it's opening a pack of baseball cards. That's just like a treat for myself. And I can't open it unless I get everything done for the day. And quite honestly, that's not attainable because that's just like buying baseball cards all the time. And as much as that sounds kind of fun, that's not really within what I want to be spending my money on all the time. But I don't always give myself the reward, but it is nice to have something. It could be give yourself 5 minutes on TikTok or whatever is a fun treat for you. But obviously, when it gets to the social media stuff, watch it because they know how to manipulate you into just never leaving it. So set a timer. Thank goodness I never got into a lot of that stuff. I'm too old and lame to know some of it, but it's working out for me. But here's the other thing. You're not always going to finish your 5. So what I do is I circle it. And when you have all of this chaos, all this blah, 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 when you see a big open circle there, it catches the eye. So every so often, every couple of days or so, I will go back and see if there's any big circles glaring at me saying, hey, you haven't done this yet. And that's been very effective for me. It really prohibits things from slipping through the cracks. Also, quite honestly, a lot of times things come up and it makes sense to not get everything done today because something bigger and more important and pressing has suddenly fallen onto your lap and you have to go take care of that. You have to address that. Actually, as you see here, I got a couple days, 18th through the 19th. And the point is to constantly be making progress. Those are some big goals that Ayla is working on, but it starts with the smaller, more attainable on a daily or maybe a weekly basis. And of course, then I've got my bigger goals for the month. I do want to do a video here about setting goals, about dreaming big, to be honest with you. Goals, I think, oftentimes feel very practical, but dreams feel like fantasy, but dreams shouldn't be fantasy. You should be dreaming for the biggest and best for yourself. Also getting back to the idea of accountability. Now, this is something I did in the past, and I would like to get back to it. I had a professional website for myself. At the time, I was living in Los Angeles. I was a camera operator, video editor, worked on different crews, usually independent shooting. I had a website where I blogged daily, and I mean daily. Every single day, I would write about what I did today. I was on this shoot and I was in this crew position and I always loved working with so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. It's not an in-depth article, but it would be at least a couple of paragraphs and a photo from the day. What that did was so many different things at once. For one, the accountability. It put the pressure on me to do something that's worth talking about because I'm putting it up there. I don't know if anybody ever looked at that website and it kind of didn't matter, but because it was there. Also, when doing it in such a public sense like that, of course, at that time, I was always looking for more clients. So if anybody ever Googled me, boom, they would see my website and they'd see all of this stuff I was doing. It really showed anybody that looked at the website that I was working a lot. And obviously I've got a passion for it because I'm creating this website and I'm pursuing this and I'm doing it in such a big public way. And, even right now, I'm in the midst of a workout challenge I'm doing for myself. And I'm not the biggest, buffest guy, as you might be able to tell, but I'm still doing a live blog of that on my Facebook page. Nobody's looking at that but me. But there is still like this accountability trigger that is in there that if anybody does look at that page, they'll say, oh, he was doing a 30-day challenge and there's nothing past day 19. I guess he didn't make it. And of course, it's not just avoiding ridicule. In a perfect world, you've got your community of friends and family. And then every time you show that you've made that next step, people are going to congratulate you and say, good job. So there's the positive side of it that we all have cheerleaders in our lives more than we know, more than we care to know, because it sounds like such an ego thing to be thinking about people cheering for you. But honestly, you wish well for your friends and they wish well for you back. So when you're doing something, especially if it's a difficult challenge, updating, putting things out there, letting people know what you're working on, you will get people backing you up. And that makes you more excited to do it as well. So these are some of the things that I do personally. I am not the guru that says I'm do everything perfectly and this is exactly how you should do it. This is just working well for me, and I would love to know what kind of things you've done, what you've discovered on your own, whether it's a life hack, quote unquote, or any way to keep yourself motivated, especially during the winter as it is right now, where it's cold and gray and it's tough to find motivation a lot. And if you don't have that ticking clock, it's really difficult to make progress. And it's always tough to get started, but it always feels really good to have been done. So let me know what you have found on your own. Thank you so much for watching. Please keep commenting, and I look forward to talking to you soon.